Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Apologies from my side for being late, and uh, it's just because those technical glitches. Our guest speaker Bo has already joined, but since he was traveling, he's now in Dubai these days, so he's sort of unable to, uh, you know, manage the issues that he's currently facing. So we are starting the session without any further delay. So let me quickly introduce Bo, our guest speaker, to all of you. Bo is co-founder of Southeast Asia's leading impact venture capital firm. With over 10 years of investing in the region, Bo has seen the evolution of early stage venture capital ecosystem, as well as the rise of impact investing in backing visionary companies. Bo has a deep passion for helping founders develop leadership skills and maintain their mental health during the intense journey that accompanies the scaling of a startup. At Patamar, Bo and his team back impact driven founders launching sector defining companies to serve the mass market of low and middle income customers through financial services or tech enabled disruption and aggregation platforms. So we now request Bo to please share his views, and this will be followed by Q&A session from our senior members. So over to you, Bo. And you can see your slide deck as well. We would
Great.
not be able to, show Bo on his cam, ladies and gentlemen, but obviously you have already seen him in that artwork. So over to you, Bo.
Great. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yes, loud and clear.
Sorry for interrupting. Bo, I'll have the slide controls. You can just ask me to switch slides.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks everyone. I apologize for the challenges on the tech side. I still cannot figure out how to get my laptop to allow me to use the webcam, even though I've gone in through all the privacy settings and everything. It's just not working today. I don't know why. But as was mentioned, just as background, I've been actively investing in early stage companies across emerging markets in Asia now for the last 12 years. Co-founded Patamar Capital with two business partners back in 2010. And really what we wanted to focus on was how do we bring attention to different markets such as Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, which in 2010 were not being served by venture capital firms at all. And also on top of that, there were very few investors who were even open to investing in companies that were serving low and middle income people, which I think now we know is the mass market in pretty much all emerging Asian countries. So we were early investors into microfinance banks in South Asia. And then we started to look at what are the technology-enabled platforms that we thought could have a big impact on the lives of low-income people, whether that was financial services, education, healthcare, agriculture platforms. If we fundamentally believe that technology companies are going to kind of rewrite the rules of how economies function, are going to modernize industries, are going to modernize sectors, then really, we need to be investing in those types of businesses and those entrepreneurs as well, who have impact at the core, not only of their own vision, but are putting impact at the core of the businesses that they launch, the platforms that they're building, so that then we can drive more impact for the long term across countries where inclusive economic growth is incredibly important. So Pakistan is a really fascinating market for me. We were going to try and invest into the market due to COVID and some other things. We've had to put that on hold, but spent quite a bit of time in Pakistan, met a number of the folks who were on this call during that. I spent about a month there in late 2018, early 2019, and really, late 2019, early 2020. And I'm really excited about the growth prospects there. And I think one of the things I always like to say is, we've been to this movie. The cast of characters may look a little bit different, but it kind of ends up in the same place, is that people think that their country is oftentimes far behind. And, when you're looking at it from where you are today and where you think companies will go in the long term, that may be a little bit of the case, but realize that it's going to happen quite quickly. And so I think this is a very timely discussion. and really just here to share some perspective as we have seen things play out in different markets. So if you can move to 2 slides away from this, past the intro slide. Great. So yeah, we've been investing 15 years in these markets, and so we feel like we kind of know what we're doing. We learn a ton every day, and really it's in the companies that are providing essential products and services, or it's creating economic opportunities for small and medium enterprises. And what I know about Pakistan, and I definitely don't consider myself to be an expert, but there's huge opportunities to provide SME financing, bring small businesses online for the first time as the digital economy really starts to take up and digital penetration continues to increase. But then also there's a bunch of products and services that are not being provided to low and middle income people that oftentimes people in the high income segments are able to benefit from. So if you could hop to the next slide, please. And we'll jump past this. I think that we already covered this. So next slide. Yeah, so when it comes to impact, metrics are necessary, but they're not enough. So a lot of people in the impact investing space talk about impact, and they talk about the fact that they align with the SDGs. But we really only invest in scalable companies with impact at the core of their business model and culture. And we invest early and really work intensely with those impact-driven founders to really help their companies grow platforms all the way from birth through exit. And so if you can move to the next slide. Jump to the next slide. I won't go through my team. Next. Next. One more. And then one more. Sorry. Yeah, so we primarily invest in companies that are engaged in inclusive financial services. So we were early investors in microfinance banks. Now we do a lot in SME finance. We're doing something called embedded finance, which is working with banks and tech platforms who don't want to run their own SME lending platforms, but they want to actually provide credit to the users on tech platforms or provide credit down to borrowers that may be banking customers, but the banks don't traditionally know how to serve those clients. And then we invest in tech platforms for informal sectors. So we've looked at things in logistics. So how do you build a platform that works with small truck drivers to make sure that they can get access to more orders, they get paid more efficiently, and then also shippers or companies that need to get things from point A to point B are able to find logistics partners in a much faster and streamlined way. So those are some examples. We're also investors in the largest digital education business in Vietnam, which has grown quite a bit through the years. Investors in some job matching and employment platforms. And right now we're looking at a number of businesses that are doing social e-commerce down through small shops across Indonesia. Next slide. Anyway, actually, I'm gonna go off of this deck now and just kind of talk about what it is that we look for. So you can actually take the slide deck down at this point, just because I'm gonna talk about what we do as a firm. So we tend to look for great founders with a lot of experience understanding the industry or the sector that they're focused on. So I think the idea that in the consumer side, oftentimes like you see things like TikTok and Facebook, and it's actually a young person with just a great idea and a keen understanding of users will be able to build consumer products. But most of the types of companies we invest into are companies that are highly regulated or require a pretty significant amount of knowledge when it comes to a sector. So, for example, we're investors in a company in Southeast Asia called M-Clinica, and it's built the largest vertically integrated virtual pharmacy network. The founder of that company came from a longtime career running sales teams for Merck, Pfizer, and Genentech, and really said, hey, I know the problems that pharmacies face. I know the problems that pharmaceutical companies face in actually getting their products from manufacturing down through nationwide distributors, down through wholesalers, all the way down to these small mom and pop pharmacies. There's another company in Pakistan called Davai, which is doing some interesting things along the same lines. But it's founders who have really been knowledgeable of those sectors that we tend to find is a key part of the businesses that we invest into. And that's oftentimes because we're working in pretty old school supply chains and distribution chains. The other thing that we look for is, obviously that, it's a big enough market size. So, is this $1 billion market where if this company captures a significant portion of that market, they can actually get to a certain scale and actually become a sector defining business. So, it's more so than just, we think in order to have impact, you need to build the company at scale. And with that said, you need to have a big enough market that you can actually scale up into. So those are two of the key things, is market and team. And then obviously business models are driven by those teams' ability to take their knowledge, adapt what needs to be done to change an industry or modernize a sector. And I think in Pakistan, one of the things that's interesting is, there's some similarities, but obviously every single country has a little bit different of, supply chains and distribution system, different players who are entrenched, who hold most of the power. So like in the Philippines, it's much more difficult for entrepreneurs to build businesses because oftentimes you have the largest business families who are in every single sector. But what we've seen in countries like Indonesia is the old school players have started to say, hey, let's invest in these new platforms, and our business may not live forever, but we want to be backers of the companies that are going to live forever, or at least the next chapter, I should say, in the digital environment. So we've seen interesting partnerships between family-run conglomerates in Indonesia and actually tech companies that are operating in a similar sector. And it's actually, by building those strong partnerships and owning those companies together, they're able to get to scale much faster and actually build a much better system. So anyways, I'm going to stop for a second and kind of just open it up to any questions, based on our experience, maybe more of what's burning in your mind as you think about tech-driven companies that are trying to operate and build sector-defining businesses in Pakistan, because it's still in the early days. You've seen a number of companies, like Airlift and by Kia get off the ground. Companies like Davai are kind of in their early and growth stages, and you're seeing a lot happen in financial services. But it's my opinion that the whole economy is going to shift in a lot of ways, and luckily. It's a market that I love learning about, and would love to hear people's questions in any way that I can provide any feedback.
So may I request all participants to write your questions in the question tab. So in the meanwhile, Bo, I mean, audience, I'm sure will be asking questions, but in the meanwhile, just for the sake of clarity, so you mentioned while making the decision of investment in any of the companies, you normally evaluate 2-3 key things. So you talked about the knowledge of the owner and the team and the overall ecosystem, the business environment and opportunity size. Any don'ts for these businesses? So anything which you want to tell them more about, that they have to be cautious about it while asking for help and reaching out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we early start working with businesses, one, it's just I want to make sure that I'm talking with an entrepreneur who helps me see the world in a different way than the way it exists at the current time. And people can have an amazing vision of where they want to end up 10 years from now, but then what's that plan look like for them to get from step A to B to C to D to E? And so if you're going to paint a vision for me, which is 10 years from now, we're going to be the largest FMCG distributor, and and we're going to do it by essentially enabling small shops to essentially order directly from us. You're dealing with some pretty big challenges there. You've got big incumbent players, and so I think a good entrepreneur who's trying to change these things is not only going to say, hey, technology is going to change the world, but is going to have a very interesting, unique plan about what steps they're going to take to deal with the challenges and opportunities in Pakistan that exist in that sector. So I think at a very high level, it's oftentimes it's what's going to be that thing that allows you to get in the door and to really delight your customers in a way that the current players are not. And if you've figured out the way to provide value to your end customers and essentially get them used to a more convenient digitally enabled solution, then you're in a pretty good spot. But you could then immediately run up against vested interests who hold all of the inventory, or there may be some regulatory and licensing challenges that need to be faced. Now, that doesn't mean that things don't change and loosen up in the future. But if somebody's gonna go out and raise a bunch of capital, there needs to be at least somewhat of a reasonable path to dealing with all of those challenges and actually tapping into those opportunities in a fast manner.
That's wonderful. Now we have more questions for you, Bo. So, which sectors have been given preference by your firms in Pakistan so far?
So, I mean, just to be clear, we haven't actually invested into Pakistan yet, and probably will not be
But
investing in Pakistan.
any specific area or the preferred area for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I were to look at the opportunities, I would look at, I think that financial services is a huge opportunity just based on what I know in Pakistan. So there's a bunch of great entrepreneurs who are trying to build interesting approaches to dealing with that. Whether it's, I mean, one of the things that's great is you do have an interesting payments ecosystem with Telenor and Jazz and some other things. So, people are getting used to mobile payments. And then I think with the entry of Kareem, people have gotten used to more digital platforms. So I think that and COVID essentially having people adopt probably, I was talking with some good friends who run funds in India, and they said, we saw a level of digital adoption in India that we accomplished in 1 year what we thought would have taken 10 years. So I think Pakistan's in an interesting place where digital solutions are actually going to take off. And so financial services is always one of those building blocks that then enables things. So getting access to people who've been underserved by the current banks, whether it's through lending capital or inventory financing or the ability to make digital payments. It wasn't until PayPal and some other companies in the US solved the payments problem online that you saw the growth of all the other type of internet-based companies. And so as I watch payments take off in Pakistan and other types of finance, whether it's embedded finance to make sure that consumers can buy things on installments, or the ability to do, quick settlement of bills between small businesses and their suppliers or their distributors, that will kind of fuel the next growth of consumer-focused businesses, which then rely upon those rails of payments in order to function.
Great. So, Bo, and another question from Tahmina Shahryar Khan: how can venture capital firms transform a weak innovation ecosystem into a productive and robust one?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it comes from making the right types of investments and watching companies, giving entrepreneurs the type of support, and not disincentivizing people from building those types of businesses. So maybe not on the venture capital side, because I think venture capital firms who are doing it more of the traditional model that we've seen in Silicon Valley, the US, Europe, now we're seeing in Indonesia and Vietnam. I think that family offices can get involved, or corporates can get involved and invest. But the thing that they need to remember is don't turn them into one of your either your family business or your corporate subsidiaries. Like, you need to back these entrepreneurs in a way that make them feel like they own the business and they're running the business, and you may be on the board, but you're making a bet on the entrepreneurs because you believe in what they're trying to do. Because the one thing about entrepreneurs that I've always learned is that they're very visionary, and they're also quite confident and don't like to be told what to do all the time. In the same way that somebody who runs a family business doesn't want to be told what to do all the time. So it just takes kind of understanding as a venture capital investor, whether you're a family office or running a venture fund, or you're a corporate, it's, how do we support the growth of these companies through capital and connections and counsel to help them scale, and that's really our role. So obviously, I think that Pakistan is an ecosystem. If those building blocks of the digital ecosystem are built, that's probably the first things to invest into. And then the second step will be into companies that are serving consumers that have more disposable income, or business products that can be delivered digitally and can be paid for digitally.
Great. And Malik Shahbaz, after listening to your inspirational journey of Patamar as well, so he's asking what was your firm's initial capital and how you source finance initially, so initial part of your journey.
Yeah, so it was not simple. We were trying to do something in markets that nobody had ever invested into. So we used what we called more of a syndicate or a deal by deal structure. We had a group of investors who were interested in what we were doing, and so we raised a proof of concept fund, which is essentially we went out and got pledges from a number of investors and did 5 companies, and about that mini fund was about $5 million. And we did 5 investments that continued to progress. And then those investors said, "Hey, we really like this. Let's go raise a bigger fund." Then we raised about a $40 million fund, which was our second fund. And right now we're in progress of closing on our third fund, which is right around the same size. It'll be right around $50 million, most likely. And it's one of these things where it doesn't just happen overnight, and it takes a lot of planning, a lot of effort. It's probably easier to make a lot of money by building the next great technology company that's going to win the market, but in order to do that, you got to be pretty confident that you've got the right idea. We at least have the ability to kind of make our bets in a number of companies and learn and see how the markets progress.
That's wonderful. I think let's stop here. We'll take other questions later on.
Shahid, so you can ask a if I may ask a quick question. And Bo was talking about regulating the market or to play a role. So you mentioned the Y.PK, so I think which is a marketplace for pharmaceuticals. Do you think there has to be a role of regulators in such marketplaces as well? So, for example, if somebody's trying to sell a medicine on one of these marketplaces or one of these places, which is not a licensed medicine, a licensed drug in the market, do you think the regulators need to play an active role? And what kind of activity have you seen in Pakistan happening in this regard?
Yeah, so I can't say that I understand Pakistan from a regulatory perspective. So maybe it's easier for me to talk about what I've seen happen in other markets. I think there's always a role for regulation as long as it's proper regulation, right? So if you're like in financial services, one of the things that held back Indonesia for a long time is that they were not granting licenses to innovative fintech companies in order to grow. So it really slowed down the growth of the market. Now, they could have used intelligent regulation, and now they're actually quite good. But I'm talking back in like 2011, like 2012. And so there was a lot of hurdles that regulators were just too tight on things, as opposed to allowing people to pilot new ideas and get like more like provisional licenses to do different things. One of the things about Indonesia is that, if we look at our company M Clinica that's there, they are essentially they're just facilitating the connection between distributors and wholesalers and pharmacists themselves. So small mom and pop pharmacies. So they don't do direct delivery of drugs to end consumers. Even though there are some companies that do that, our company does not do that. But one of the things that they've done is that they've said, hey, it's a easily verifiable chain of custody between the wholesalers and distributors, and then also the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy is the end dispensary point, right? One of the realities of emerging markets, though, is there is so much counterfeit drugs. So the only thing I say is that I think that the Divide team is actually quite good and quite smart. I don't know what regulations they're facing in the market, but if they're doing a better job than the existing system is doing, to restrict a company like that's ability to actually make sure that they're buying actual pharmaceuticals and distributing them, and not putting up so many hurdles for them to do a good job. If you create regulations that are hamstringing tech companies, and yet they're better than what the existing market is able to do, that type of a regulation doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, I think that smart regulation, there's always a place for it. I think that as long as the regulation doesn't hamstring innovation completely. But anytime you're dealing with people's lives when it comes to healthcare or financial services, where people then could be defrauded or lose money, you just need intelligent regulation that is growing, and you have smart people in the regulatory ecosystem who are actually paying a lot of attention and are trying to drive progress, as opposed to trying to protect vested interests. And so I think it's pretty easy for people to know where they land on that if they look at themselves in the mirror.
So there are a couple of more questions for you, Bo, and it is now related to the Patamar, and if you can give the question from Adil, and Maria is also echoing that. If we can get an idea about the basic term and condition regarding investments, and how much percentage share holding does Patamar expect when it invests in a company?
Yeah, I mean, this is all changing really fast, by the way. It oftentimes depends on fund size. So for us, where we're at today is we look at making, typically around a $1 to $2 million, maybe up to $3 million investments. And with that, we want to own, kind of the, around 10% to 15% would be fantastic. Getting up to 20% in this day and age in the markets we're in is actually really difficult unless you go in at a seed stage and provide a really large tech. But then the risk that you're taking by funding a company that's super early on and doesn't have a lot of traction with a lot of money doesn't make a lot of sense either. So we like to be in the, like the high single digit percentage up to 15%, writing $1 to $3 million investments. Then it really justifies us spending a lot of time with the company, working with them, and really dedicating a lot more resources to their success.
One more question, and Saad has put it up. It's about payment mechanisms, and in a situation where cryptocurrencies are now emerging, and in Pakistan, for example, State Bank has now shown an inclination of having their own cryptocurrency, digital currency, and at the same time introducing other more robust payment mechanisms. Do you see a similar trend happening in other markets as well?
You mean the rise of cryptocurrencies and
cryptocurrencies and digital payment solutions?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that digital payment solutions are on the rise. Even in countries like Vietnam and Indonesia and the Philippines, digital wallets, it's a massive battle. Everybody wants to own that because they think that's a part of building a super app ecosystem, which deals with e-commerce and logistics and food delivery and, kind of you name it. So payments is a big deal. When it comes to crypto, when people are transitioning from cash-based economy, I think crypto is a fascinating thing. I don't know how it's all going to turn out or who's going to win. I'm not an expert in that, but I think that like the day in day out use of crypto by the mass market, we're still quite a ways out from that becoming a real threat. It could be at a certain point, but I think that governments would need to allow that sort of stuff to function. So what we look at normally is how do you make sure people can get cash in and out of a digital wallet or out of a bank account easily. And some of the other businesses that we've been looking at recently is just how do you build a company that can make it so that taxes can be paid easily and effectively, or bills can be paid using a mobile wallet or using their bank accounts. There's still so much friction and inefficiency in a lot of emerging markets, and I don't know Pakistan well enough, unfortunately, to give a lot of context there. But I think you'll see a lot of entrepreneurs who build really interesting fintech platforms that just get rid of the friction of businesses being able to pay their bills, businesses being able to pay other businesses, consumers being able to pay businesses, consumers transferring money from one to another. And oftentimes it has a lot to do with a lot of people focusing more on interoperability as opposed to trying to create what we call a closed moat or a closed loop system where they can only transact with other people who happen to be on the same platform. So anyways, I think that Pakistan's probably quite early in the journey. I know that JazzCash is doing a lot of great stuff. I know there's a number of fintech companies who are working closely with them. So I'm actually quite optimistic about the fintech entrepreneurs in Pakistan. And I think that as long as the market continues to work on more of an interoperability side as opposed to closed loop systems, and try and facilitate the adoption of digital channels, I think that that's only good for everybody and creates a just much better functioning economy.
Thank you very much, Bo. And another question from Adil Rahman, out of curiosity, he wants to know the success stories and the names of few major companies where Patham are invested, and now they are successful entities now.
Yeah, so one of the companies we invested into was a company called, I'll just share one right now and share a little bit more about it. It's called Mapan. It was a company that had the idea of building an agent network of small shopkeepers across Indonesia to do essentially a technology-enabled solution for the distribution of e-commerce products. At the time that they got launched, very few people had access to bank accounts in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. A lot of people didn't have access to even mobile phones at the time. So now that's radically different. It's 70% mobile penetration. So more people are actually able to go onto the web themselves. But what they wanted to do is say, hey, how do we help facilitate the distribution of products and services that are built for tier 2 and tier 3 cities in those communities there? So they're affordable, they're high quality, they're robust, but maybe are not the same things that a high income person in Karachi would buy. So essentially they built out that platform and ended up increasing the incomes of small shopkeepers by about 30%. We started to develop white label products that really were tailored to our customer set, which were the biggest sellers. And most of the customers were actually women who were buying things on behalf of their family. They controlled most of the day in, day out purchases. And so, this was a company that was focused on female shopkeepers, focused on female customers, and did incredibly well. And the amount of volumes were just tremendous. And then they ended up getting acquired by one of the largest technology companies in Indonesia called Gojek. And when they had a 200,000 agent shopkeeper network, essentially Gojek said, hey, this is a really interesting way for us to bring more people into the Gojek ecosystem and then leverage our assets. So Gojek is kind of like the Ikea of Indonesia. It just merged, or sorry, it did not just merge. There was an announcement in the news the other day that they were merging with the largest e-commerce company at an $18 billion valuation. So lots of stuff going on there, but easy to see how a small company that started off just trying to help low-income people actually exited at a really large valuation, getting acquired by the biggest tech company there, and based on a pretty simple premise.
Excellent. I think some of us missed the name of the company. Can you repeat that, Bo?
Yeah, so it's called Mapan. It's M as in so MAPAN.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And Bo, thank you very much for taking time out from your busy schedule and joining us today. I know we are running short of time. So before we conclude this session, I request Sajid Aslam, head of ACCA Pakistan, for his concluding remarks, word of thanks, and then you can leave. G, over to you, Sajid.
Thank you, Shahid, and both. Thank you very much for taking out time. I think it's a important and interesting topic for Pakistan to understand the ecosystem and the criteria. You rightly picked up a lot of family-owned businesses. When they look at the startups, they look at it in a very different way, as a subsidiary or something which they want to own as a family business, rather than letting the original founder develop it and grow it in terms of the value, as well as in terms of the value for the customer, as well as for the capital gain side of it. So I think there were good, interesting insights which you have shared today, and I hope the most of our members who were listening to that, they will have different ideas, and they are now more knowledgeable how the VC ecosystem is operating around the world, and how they can tap in that ecosystem to facilitate some of the stuff which is happening in Pakistan. And you rightly picked up, there are a lot of promising startup, maybe at a very early stage, which will be looking for certain funding, and they will require certain guidance in terms of structuring and market positioning and the market size evaluation. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope to keep seeing you on a different forum in Pakistan.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bo.
So over to you, Shahid.
Now the plan is, Sajid, to deliberate on the session, and now you and Harun Saab can lead the questions, and we can still request participants to ask questions, follow-up questions, and now we have Sajid with us as well, who can give you further clarity around the topic.
Sure, thank you, Shahid. And if you can make me organizer, that will help me to really start seeing the questions and replying the questions more easily.
Ji, sure, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Got it. So guys, now we are open. What is the new learning today? Anything which you were not aware of, anything which has helped you to really evaluate in terms of your business ideas and how you can take it forward? You can post it in a question mark, and meanwhile I'll pick up some of the question. So there's a question around, what is your VC value addition to the business other than the investment? So I think the primary value they bring is the investment, but the strategic value they bring out in this scenario is significantly their outlook, their contacts, and the knowledge base which they share, and the network they help you to tap in. So I think those are the great values which any VC bring to the table once you get somebody. It's just like when Pakistan goes for the IMF one, we are talking about the $6 billion in a $300 billion economy. So 6 billion practically does not add much, but as soon as IMF is there, the rest of the investors and the funding agencies also start coming into Pakistan, and that goes in a similar way that goes with the VC investments. Once you raise your first early stage investment from a reputable VC, there are a lot of private equity and other VC firms who are willing to work with you. Ali Abbas rightly picked up, there is always investment available in the market. So Pakistan is one of the countries, just because of its sheer size and the size of the business and the population and the opportunity itself, it's a very attractive market for the investor. The one area where we struggle most of the time is to put together a team. Most of the people try to do it themselves. It's difficult to put together a team which is have a similar value set, and they believe in the opportunity in the same way, and they are willing to go on a beg borrow steal model to really create a POC. बहुत कम लोग होंगे जो अपनी बाइक या गाड़ी बेच के दूसरे लोगों की सैलरी देने को तैयार होंगे. ये हमारा एक बहुत बड़ा dilemma है, which in the business sector that happens again a lot, where you sell your bike or car to pay salaries for your team members, and that if you don't have that kind of courage, अगर आपका इतना हौसला नहीं है, तो then definitely you are sitting in a wrong side of the business. You should be looking at the more employment. So business करने के लिए थोड़ा सा हौसला चाहिए होता है, थोड़ी सी patience चाहिए होती है. It takes its own time. 18 से 24 महीने लगते हैं कि जब आपका POC एक proof of concept जो है commercialize होने की stage पे आता है, and that's when most of the people they lose their emotional and physical efforts, as well as उनके जो financial resources हैं, they also dry down. So ये वो सारे areas होते हैं जहाँ पे आपको बहुत ज्यादा काम करने की जरूरत होती है, और उन एरियाज को देखते हुए आप आगे बढ़ते हैं कि आपने अब उसको इन्वेस्टर के पास कैसे लेके जाना है. इन्वेस्टर आपके आइडिया और टीम पे रिलाई करता है rather than आपके रिसोर्सेज पे. Real estate investment is altogether a very, very different model when we look at the investment size, and there is a lot of money which is itself available in Pakistan for the real estate. रियल एस्टेट के जो मैकेनिक्स हैं और जो इसकी साइकी है वो बहुत फर्क है एज कम्पेयर टू अ टेक्नोलॉजी बिजनेस. रियल एस्टेट बिजनेस में आपको ग्रो करने के लिए या आपको एक स्केल लेके आने के लिए you need a lot of money to be sitting back there, and there is a lot of regulations which you have to fulfill before you can really scale it in a different way. So definitely अगर आप smart homes की बात कर रहे हैं, smart cities की बात कर रहे हैं, there is a certain funding which is available if you are compliant with the green economy. So IFC आपके जो real estate के project में बहुत ज्यादा funding करने को तैयार हो जाता है, but real estate funding के definitely models से बहुत फर्क है, और वो एक simple VC model जो आजकल हम देख रहे होते हैं उसमें it's really fit in. Health and wellness and or environment, I think these are very attractive sector, but you have to be very clear that you are solving a problem which is able to generate enough revenue or profitability so you can at least sustain yourself before you scale it up. So it can't be a NGO type business or not for profit business. There are impact investors who are just looking at the impact side of it, और उनके पास पैसा deploy करने की एक capacity होती है, और they are not looking for profitability, they are only looking for the impact investment side of it. So उसकी investors जो है वो बहुत फर्क है. So again, अगर आपने अपने sector को जहाँ पे आप investment देख रहे हैं, तो you have to really do the right kind of matchmaking. लास्ट टाइम जब हम बो से बात कर रहे थे और इनकी टीम से बात कर रहे थे, इन्होंने एक बड़ी मजे की स्टेटमेंट दी थी कि पाकिस्तान आज वहां खड़ा है जहां पे आज से 8 से 10 साल पहले इंडोनेशिया खड़ा था. इंडोनेशिया आज ट्रिलियन डॉलर से बड़ी इकोनॉमी है. और दूसरी चीज जो उन्होंने वहां पे एक स्टेट की थी, दैट वाज दैट कि हमारे पास जो लेवल ऑफ टैलेंट है और जो अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इट्स नॉट गोना टेक अस 10 ईयर टू गेट देयर, वी माइट टेक 3 to 5 ईयर इफ वी स्टार्ट वर्किंग इन अ राइट डायरेक्शन. सो अपॉर्चुनिटी साइज इज सिमिलर, mechanics are similar, it's just that how we really leverage it. Indonesia managed to do that. हम क्या collectively और individually हम उस level पे, उस ethical level पे, उस professionalism level पे survive कर रहे हैं, या वो lens हम इस वक्त use कर रहे हैं जिसमें हम इन opportunities को और इसकी scalability को देख सकें, तो वो definitely it comes down to every single individual. The question is around, do you know that there are different kind of VCs, there are different kind of impact investor, there is a private equity one, there are the seed investors as well. So आपने अपने business के stage को देखते हुए you have to approach the right kind of investor, otherwise आपके लिए एक challenge हमेशा रहेगा कि आपकी opportunity बहुत अच्छी है, लेकिन आप जिस group और जिस network को tap in करना चाह रहे हैं investment के लिए, उनकी psyche और priorities बहुत फर्क है. It's not that they don't have funds, उनके बड़े defined रूल्स होते हैं या क्राइटेरियाज होते हैं जिसकी बेस पे वो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे होते हैं. सो दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू इन्वेस्ट इन एवरी अदर अपॉर्चुनिटी व्हिच इज लुक्रेटिव. उनके डिफाइंड क्राइटेरियाज में आपको फॉल करना पड़ता है. So you might be offering a real estate return maybe 60% or 100% IRR, But if the VC is not in a real estate business, regardless of the size and the potential of the opportunity, they are not going to invest in that. Kenza, you are looking at the, when you are talking about invest in shares, you are talking about invest in stock market, right? There is an upcoming session, Kenza, which is practically designed for the investment in the stock markets. So do join that. So keep look out for the emails and make sure that you can access the live one or you can access the recording one. So yes, there are certain sessions which are specifically designed to invest in the shares, but आपके लिए सबसे अच्छी चीज ये होती है, you have to start using the simulators, which can help you to see the type of decisions you are making, what kind of return it could have generated, provided you had invested in real life in those scenario. Luckily, there's a ACCA student and not an ACCA affiliate now, who has created a platform to provide information around the stocks, and he has got a good subscriber base now, which is and even that's include the stock market as a one of a subscriber, to curate all that information and provide the analysis using a certain algorithms. So there are a lot which ACCA students and members are doing in that field as well. And we have multiple or several members who are leading the brokerage houses or who are leading the investment houses. So वो भी आपके लिए जो आपके senior हैं, that could be a good network to interact with. Any other question? So just going back to one of our assignment which we were talking about, all these recent interaction, whether we are talking about grooming or whether we are talking about the session with Bo today, we do expect that on Saturday, when you are getting there with your business ideas and business model canvas, now you have a fair idea that what are the criteria you should be looking at, how you will be looking at scaling side of it, how you will be looking at the business model itself. So thoda sa aapko usme study karna padega, but we do expect that as a group, when you will be coming up one or two ideas that would be worth for investors. So just make sure you have got some perspective, you have worked out on a business model. Let's see how best we can put it together and present it in a way where it can create value for yourself as well as for the rest of the people who will be playing a role of investor, whether there's enough meat and information available where the investor mindset, again, a lot of people who will be working in an accountant mindset, they will be looking for a lot of information and absolute assurance that their investment is safe. That's not how investors work. They work with the 40, 50, 60% of clarity and the 40, 50% ambiguity. They look at the team, they look at the opportunity, they look at the size of the opportunity, and that's where they make a decision. They hardly get into the overall financial side of it, but those are the important high level numbers, that what are the potential revenue and cost, or whether there is a revenue. There are companies who are not generating revenue for several years and they still are incorporating a big capital gains and the valuations. Uber is one of our ideal example. Airbnb are the ideal example, who are not posting profit. Kareem itself, who was valued over 3 billion, was not posting any profit. Baikia is not posting any profit. Zameen is not, to best of my understanding, posting any huge profits right now, but their valuations are going up because investors are taking long-term view around it, that once they come up with the profitability, that would be entire different scalability around it. Similarly, if you go back, Apple was not posting profit for a while, but now if you see at the valuation, it's altogether a different kind of valuation. So really get very clear that what kind of business you are working on and how long does it take to get to that scale where the valuation or the capital gain is a different kind of earning compared to the operating earning of that business. Questions?
Sajeev,
Questions,
जी, I'm sure members will ask further questions. लेकिन एक जो चीज इमर्ज हुई है पिछले कुछ Saturdays के unmoderated sessions में, वो ये है कि participation बहुत low रही है, extremely low. So is coming Saturday को भी, I mean, members will be working on their business canvas and business valuations and models. लेकिन participation low होने की वजह से we have been receiving requests के हम इन groups को merge कर दें. So any piece of advice, any suggestion from your side?
Definitely, we can create a bigger group that will help, as well as on this Saturday, I think we are going to be there as well.
जी, because वो business case present.
Support भी कर देना.
Absolutely.
So anybody who is willing to share where they stand in terms of the business model? Anybody who is there with the business model where they stand today? Yes, no, you can post in a question as well, question tab. No. So most of the people are not ready. Do you have any questions to ask? So on Saturday, we have more productive session. So we have got 40 minutes available, so we can leverage that time to clarify some of the component of the business model or idea you are working, how you're going to get the team, what is the right time to present to the real investor, whether you are running a existing business. If you're ready, we can do some matchmaking at some point of time. Anybody who has gone through the business model for the future PI?
And Sajid, members can speak as well, right? You can unmute.
Yeah, they can. Tamina has got a question. What would you choose a plan that is possible to be completed in 8 years without investment, or a plan to be completed with investment in 4 years? Definitely the 4 years. The longer the time, if it's the same outcome, the longer the time, it poses higher the risk. Not because that the opportunity size goes away. It's because the team may not have a similar motivation to carry it out. So generally the question investor comes up that you are talking about scaling in 4 years time. How about we make the investment double, and can you scale it in 2 years? So these are the common questions. I think the accounting and auditing companies, I'm not very sure how much you are familiar with the current trends and patterns. The bookkeeping, the audit, the accounts, all these things are going to be automated. So you can install something today and you can may not be as a trained professional accountant who can do the bookkeeping. It's just the repetitive task of the data entry. If you are talking about the larger organization who have got SAP, the data entry and the accounts management is significantly coming through the processes itself. You don't have to really do the bookkeeping or the data entry yourself. Now that's bring us to the next question. What would be the role of professional accountant if they don't have to go through audit and if they don't have to prepare the financial statement? If everything is automated, so what is the role accountants need to play? Anyone? हमने बहुत शुरू में बात की थी कि ऑडिट कहाँ इमर्ज हो रहा है और where the role of business transformers are going. Okay, let me try to share something with you. Harun, can you make me a presenter? Give me a few minutes. Let me share a document with. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you?
Yes, Sajid.
Shahid, can you see my screen?
Yes, Sajid.
Okay, thank you. I'm just sharing one of old document. I used to work for one of our organization, and these are the services which they were offering. And this is the financial consulting side of it, right? So it's still the all the people were professional accountant, but the type of services they were offering are include this one. And let me take you to the service menu which they were offering. So look at the GCR, the governance, compliance, and risk. It's an old document. And these are the kind of services they were offering: essential enterprise level risk management, governance structure and policy, control environment, financial reporting and compliances, tracking sustainable development initiative, reporting on a GRI basis, transaction and merger. There is a certain level of services. Again, it was a subset of services: transaction, equity, debt investment, restructuring, valuation, due diligence. Then there was a anticipation and preparedness in terms of this corporate strategy and corporate finance, linking it back with the vision, strategy and operational plan, financial planning and modeling, and segment profitability analysis. But this is the one which I always loved. It's a smart spending. Every business jump on that. So smart procurement is a basic spend analysis. Most of your cost goes to the spending. Like if you are talking about manufacturing, so they are always looking for savings, and this spend analysis and strategy for each spend, procurement organization, governance structure and policies, procure to pay process, the process level KPIs, process performance indicator, your value driving monitoring, then logistic distribution, demand and supply planning. Waste Buster was a very good product. Value driver scorecard, that how you will measure that, how the progress is being made. Then from a people perspective, creating a winning team, work activity, job classification, roles, employers, performance evaluation, policies and process and orientation, talent retention, technology side of it. And another one which I loved about this one is the product Dear Future, I'm Ready. And that was based on the market research and insight. And there was another service which was like clinical. So they used to offer free of cost service for 2 or 3 days worth work, which provides a health check of the business along with the benchmarking that what are the right kind of benchmark and where this organization stand today. So they don't do anything else. They just provide the visibility and exposure by doing a benchmarking with the industry which the organization was in. That means there is a data available, there is a research available to do that. Then there's additional services. Decision making was another good idea because most of the organizations struggle in terms of how to make a decision. Do we have to build a consensus या सेठ साहब आके कहेंगे तो वो करना है और उसका क्राइटेरिया क्या होगा, डिसीजन का क्राइटेरिया किस तरह होगा. And there was special assignment. So clinical was a very good product for customer engagement. Decision making drivers like the criteria to put together that how the decision should be made. I think that was another very good product which can be leveraged where the organizations are unable to identify that they do not have a decision making process. They have a decision making meetings, but there is no criteria which can tell them why they have made the decision, what was the criteria, and how they will measure whether that decision was a success or not. So all those things, this is a part of the services bouquet which you can design. So it's not only auditing and accounting. I think the organization and the business have evolved way beyond the very standard basic services which they are looking for. They are looking for any service which can help them to enhance the revenue or reduce the cost. And when we are talking about the reduce the cost, it doesn't mean that it should destroy the value. It's the cost which should be maximum or maximum optimized in a way that it can create a maximum value with the lesser resources. So that's the overall concept. And then this statement was a very interesting one. If you don't take a chance, you don't stand a chance. So I think just by this one, although it's a proprietary document, I'm sharing with you so it can help you to see that what kind of services which are available, and the organizations are looking for that. Any comment? Atul, what you are looking for, I think that's a very ideal scenario that somebody comes, do the hand holding. I think you might not find everything, and the quality of those products which you are looking for, you have to spend time in researching. Wakas, we can share that document. At least it will give you the visibility of type of the services which you can offer, but I have to take out a lot of proprietary documents and some of the title stuff. So, but yeah, you can use that to develop your service bouquets. But Adil Rahman, I think what you are looking for is a very ideal thing, but I don't think anything exists which is fit for everything. So you need to really do the research, and you have to learn something different. I have learned WordPress and Shopify in last 72 hours, but I have to spend somewhere like in last 72 hours, I spent a couple of nights going through that process myself, and I think using all the sites and online information which was available, that was a good help. But I have to have some questions before I can go and look around. So I can only, like, my learning model is always learning by doing. So I spent somewhere like $15-20, created got one domain, set up one site, and now I'm playing around with the different themes and the changes and experimenting it myself. But the way I have learned in 72 hours, I can't learn these things just by reading. And there are always people who are available to do those kind of job. So you can't do it yourself all the way. Yeah, so WordPress is a very simple thing, Kenza, and definitely if somebody is looking at website development and they want to become handy in that, it takes like couple of days where you can use the themes and you can start creating it yourself. I learned the Shopify by, again, getting a domain and start working on a Shopify. There are themes available and you just have to customize it. So you will find a lot of people who are willing to learn by taking all the pain which we are talking about right now. But again, no pain, no gain. So you can't really sit in a classroom and learn it. I have worked with the people who have learned Shopify from the classroom, but they couldn't do the job which I was asking them to do. And similar for the WordPress. I still don't know how to run Photoshop. That's one of a dilemma, but I have somebody who can help me with the Shopify, with the Photoshops. So yes, we need to talk more because some of the question I am unable to answer. So if I need support, so I'll call you. So anyone who has got other question, otherwise we can get ourselves at least some time back, 30 minutes back. Shad, if there are no other questions, I think we can give 30 minutes back. And guys, please work on your business plan. Seriously, you might get some investors, you might get some team members in this group who can work with you to really make sure that that business take off and you can generate value for yourself, for team member, and above all for your customer.
Sure, sir. Yes, sir, in WhatsApp group now, we've been receiving requests from few members. I'm not sure about कि ये सबका same sentiment है कि नहीं. They are finding it difficult to join during Ramadan, ये 3 to 5 का time slot. And we'll discuss that offline. We'll decide that and definitely communicate to all in case their change required.
So we can do after Sari, we can do after Iftar as well.
Yeah, we can explore that, but trust me, it's not possible कि हम हर एक की aspiration को match.
So significant group, you have to really look at the significant group and see what is doable for.
जी, it will be a team decision, inshallah. So, so that's great. I think let's conclude today's session. Or obviously, we all will join you in your unmoderated sessions, but we'll be there with you on coming Saturday as well. Till then, thank you very much, and Ramzan Kareem to all of you. Khuda Hafiz.